Welcome to Grill Wars, the podcast where we take popular, iconic films, controversial topics, chop them up, grill them up, and discuss what we love and what we hate. I'm Mike Freedom.
I'm Duke Meadowpoint.
Duke, what do we got on the grill today?
Today is, I guess we'd call this one a cult classic, but it is
Definitely
The Fifth Element from 1997, directed by, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Is it Luc Besson?
Yeah, Luke. Probably Luke. Luke. Yeah.
Luke probably makes more sense. But yeah,
yeah.
It's Fifth Element, man. I grew up with this film. It's one that I saw when I was young. It was super interesting because I can't really think of too many films that have the same kind of aesthetic vibe that The Fifth Element has. And the older I get, the more surprised I am when I keep coming back and learning this movie was kind of average. I guess the kids these days would call it mid.
Yeah. This movie's mid, bro. Yeah, but I again, so yeah, there could be a nostalgic factor to it, but every time it's on, again, I don't have TV, but I would just sit and watch, and I really thoroughly enjoyed rewatching it again, just because it's so stupid in so many ways, but it's so good in so many ways.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's funny. Most people that I talk to who have seen this movie are typically their childhood was in like the 90s or early 2000s.
Right.
That seems to be the sweet spot for the audience for this. But yeah, I'm curious. Like, do you guys even know about this movie?
I hope our audience knows. I mean,
there's a few memes that came out of it, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of.
It's a cult. It's definitely a cult following, and again, it's making our jobs easy because we're doing a lot of things that we enjoy. But I promise you, there's definitely a good following for this movie, and rightfully so, because again, mid '90s, '97, I think the year was, and there was just so many people that were just in it that are still stars today. But this is where they started to like. All right. Well, I mean, think about it, right? Who we got? Bruce Willis,
which is, a mainstream actor, at least recently, or not. I don't know about recently, but
recently
he's kind of old recently, but
he's unfortunately not doing so well as of late. But yeah, he's not doing great.
That's a shame.
He's and I think he even he signed his rights over or something. To where if they want to reproduce his voice or something, that it could. You guys can fact check me on this, but yeah, he's not doing great, and that I saw. But when I hear of Bruce Willis, I think of Die Hard, I think of like Armageddon, and I think of this movie.
Yeah, and then obviously we got the antagonist of the film, Zorg, which was played by Gary Oldman, which is everyone knows Gary Oldman.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Such a great actor,
so well rounded.
What a interesting like hodgepodge of cast where it's like people who we would recognize and then a ton of people that just it's like, was this the only film they were in? Like not a lot of names maybe pop up when you look at the cast. Not to mention there was a bunch of people who just show up for like one scene. Like a lot of the police officers, they're just at the beginning of the film. They never show up again. Some of the officers or the what do they call them? Like the majors when it comes to the military, which we'll get into when it's time, but it's like they just show up for one scene, and that's kind of it.
And you know what's crazy, too, when I was looking at this? The movie's 2 hours. It's not like a 90-minute film.
Yeah.
It's pretty long.
Yeah, and I was surprised going through. It's like, man, I'm already at the end of the film. Like, I love this movie.
I love it, too.
It flows incredibly well, and I don't know what it is, but there's some movies, right, where it kind of slows down. You're like, man, how far in the movie am I, or is it over yet? But this one, it's like, oh, it's over.
Yeah. And I think once again, it gets right to the point, and it's very simple, right?
Yeah, super simple.
It's not like a complex plot. It starts in the beginning with this professor guy, and he's like, oh, the 4 elements, and this other thing, and it's so funny too. Again, it's in this opening scene. You see Luke Perry, who very random, like star from the '90s. He's got this one little blip in the beginning of the movie, but they cast him. When you open up in the opening scenes, it says, and Luke Perry. It's like, what? And this is his only scene, which is kind of funny. But
Oh,
that
he was in the opening credit when they were
yes,
show.
when they were
I didn't notice that.
he was like the last person, like, and Luke Perry. It's like,
But he's
what?
only in like the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, 90s guy.
Yeah.
But the whole, I love it because it opens up in 1914, right? So who the fuck is around in 1914? Not many people. And this guy's doing, he's
Like an archaeologist.
digging up.
Right?
Exactly, he's an archaeologist. He's digging it up, and it's Egypt. Fuck yeah, because everything that's been going on really with all this UFO shit and all this stuff, like how the pyramids built and all this stuff. Rah, rah. Of course, I'm so glad. I'm so glad it was Egypt because there's so much mystery shrouded in just the whole everything. So it's not far-fetched to think that, the Mondachimon had this, there's some ancient weapon here, and then they show up, and these metal aliens fucking show up. And then, of course, if they showed up in 1914, nobody would fucking know. There's no, you know what I mean? So I love that that's how it started.
Back then, yeah. People are just, like, looking up at the sky like, what the hell is that?
Yes, love how it started, and it leaves a lot to imagine until... Then you fast forward 300 years. So we went from 1914 to, I guess, it was 300 years. It was, what, 2314?
Something like that.
Right? So now all of a sudden we're in the future, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure. It's in the future, and they have futuristic technology, and there are some things they just completely missed, which is funny, right?
Interesting. I'm gonna be interested to hear about that. But yeah, when it skips to the future, what always stood out to me too is, like, one, they got the flying cars, which is cool. But also... Again, going back to the aesthetic, it's like the way the police officers are dressed, the way the people are dressed. It's very, God, I don't know. There must be a word for like this kind of futuristic. It's like poor futuristic. I'm not even sure how to describe it.
Yeah.
It's like wildly imaginative and really kind of, I think, gives it its unique vibe over the years.
Exactly. But the way it starts too, it's like this. So the professor finds this evil, it's evil, and then there's a weapon against evil, blah, 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 right? And they take the fifth element out of the temple, which you don't really understand, like, why, and the stones. You don't understand really why, what's going on. And then fast forward, and the evil just shows up. Like, we don't need like a huge explanation, but I'm curious, Duke, what was your interpretation of what happened?
When it comes
what is this evil? The evil. Yeah. What is this thing?
Well, so old premise that they're kind of laying the foundation for when he's going through like the hieroglyphics, trying to decode it, right? It's like, when the 3 stars create this eclipse, it's like once every X number of years, through this great evil will appear and try to destroy everything, right? It's like a doomsday prophecy type of a deal, right?
Yep.
And the only way to save or to fight back is to gather these elements, and there is some supreme being, some perfect being that is the 5th element. And they subtly, but they do emphasize like this 5th element. Like I think the way what was the professor's name? Piccoli, right? Professor Piccoli. Mm-hmm. He really paused and it's like the 5th element. Ooh, mystery. Ooh, what does it mean? Yeah. And then when they time jump, obviously we got like the space fleet, right? Yeah. That is confronting like, hey, there's some weird anomaly going on. The black hole kind of almost it almost looks like the black hole either changes or something comes out of it. And I guess as far as the evil is concerned, I could only maybe interpret it as like, this is some like evil entity. It's not really given any identity other than be this some unknown mysterious existence that takes the shape of like almost a planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that was intelligent. Right, because they try and fuck with it, and like it intercepts things, and so you same thing here, right? It's just like, okay, there's some evil, it's intelligent, it's some
it wants to destroy the universe,
destroy everything, exactly.
And the humans, as much as we've advanced and we're shooting missiles at it, it's doing nothing. Like we can't seem to stop this at all, so we're just gonna keep an eye on it for now.
Right, and it's interesting because so that's. We get introduced to Cornelius Ian Holm, who, you know what he's in, or do you not? Did you recognize Ian Holm?
I recognize him, but I'm bad with names, bro. How many times did I go over this?
Dude, he's Bilbo in the original Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I see Bilbo. Yep.
Bilbo. So, and he says, it requires 48 hours to adapt to our, I don't know, living conditions or something. So the whole movie supposed to take place in 48 hours.
Which is
Found that
wild.
Yeah, I found that interesting. And then, of course, they try and fuck with it, and then I don't know, like they freeze up, and I think you and I are on the same page. Like, I don't know what the fuck that like black goo is. I don't know if it's supposed to be like blood.
Yeah, it shows up twice in the movie. It shows up once in the beginning when this thing, the evil, goes to destroy the ships that are kind of keeping an eye on it. After I think before or after, it sucks like all the satellites in too, which is pretty funny. And then it shows up again later when Zorg is communicating with them, and I guess so there's some kind of like telepathic reach, like there's something psychic about it. There's some kind of something psychic about it, but they're communicating over phone.
Yeah, right. It's so
weird. There's like this black goo that drips down, and I remember as a kid looking at it, it's like, okay, that's bad, obviously. But what is it?
What is it? Yeah, what the fuck is it? And so that's a kind of like an unsolved thing. It's like, oh, okay, not good. Okay.
Yeah. It's thick goop coming out of their hair follicles, but it always comes down from like the center of the scalp down the forehead, which is super interesting. If anyone knows Fifth Element lore,
I want theories.
Yeah, I want to know what that is. Yeah, it's
Me too.
Weird.
Someone please let us know. So interestingly enough, too, the Montechuan come back and they get, unfortunately, just fucked up.
Which is super subtle. Like I missed that as a kid. Rewatching it, I noticed like, oh wait, they're fighting these Mangalores, these bad aliens, and I guess the ship gets blown up. Yeah. But conveniently, I think that's where one of the other main characters of the film, Lilu, played by Mila Jovovich, comes into play, because I think that is they basically have like this reconstructor, and they put this arm from the alien in it and rebuild the body, which I thought was super fucking cool as a kid.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's like 3D printing the skeleton. It's like 3D printing the tissue and nerves. It's putting the skin on, and so the perfect being appears. Yeah. Even the doctor there is like, oh, perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. How about Corbin's? Before we even get there, Corbin's apartment.
What a shithole, man.
Futuristic Brooklyn.
Yeah, so Corbin, he's in a rough spot, right? Like he has one more point on his license. His mom is just like this depressed lady who's blames every misfortune in her life on her son. It's like, and he's like some decorated military veteran who just retired.
Right, 6 months ago.
Life is kind of shit.
Yeah, his wife left him or something.
That's right. Too. That's right. Yeah.
So he's just driving a cab and
just trying to make it through.
He wakes up. And just the apartment in general was just very interesting to me. And again, kind of what you were saying, like what do they interpret the future is going to be, right? So they interpret like weird alarms, cigarettes that have these giant filters.
Yeah. And like some kind of dispenser that you can limit how many you get.
Yes, exactly. That was just funny. And one of my favorite parts too is when he opens up the door and the guy's there and he's like, oh, give me the cash. Give me the cash.
He's tweaking, man. He's losing his fucking mind. Clearly either mental or more likely, I think drugs is the vibe I was getting from the dude. But give me the cash. Give me the cash.
Give me the cash.
What a funny character. And he only shows up like that one time.
That's it. This subtle humor. It's like, okay.
But yeah, the apartment is tiny. It's like half the size of a typical studio apartment. At all. It's literally like a hallway that they're living in. The bed comes out of like this it's like a fold out bed that comes out of and then the shower is above the refrigerator and it moves up and down based on what you need.
Yeah.
The mail is all delivered through like a tube system.
Yeah, which is tube system. Yeah. Make away bed, fold away bed. Yeah. Those apartments. You ever see those apartments where again everything is like stacked on top of each other? It's like basically that. Yeah, it's like that.
Actually, you know what it kind of reminds me of is I don't know if this is like an official thing, but there's people who make like bunkers out of shipping containers, right? Or they make like they get a shipping container, they throw it in their backyard, and then they like deck it out with stuff. They make it like their man cave, basically. Oh. It kind of reminds me of that, where it's like, hey, I just want to like live in a fucking cargo container. That's kind of the size that it was now to think about it.
Dude, that's the kind of the size how it is now.
Yeah,
Try and
depending on where you live.
try and go get an apartment in Brooklyn or Manhattan and see what you find.
Yeah.
If you're not like a rich person.
And it's actually funny too. I didn't realize that it was based in New York. I don't remember where they said it or if it was like on the police cars, but where I noticed it when I was going through the film again is the spaceport, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
It actually has like New York on a marquee on the side of the spaceport, which is funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I just recall that when Corbin wakes up, it says Brooklyn.
Oh, does it? Okay, so you recognize that right away.
Yeah, he's in Brooklyn, and
Okay.
but there's something else too that I'll mention a little later. So
Yeah.
so they find so after they find like a piece of, I guess it's weird because I think the reconstruction, it's almost like they clone or they just rebuild her because there was an arm
based on the DNA.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And the DNA was super fascinating too because
Yeah.
it's not just our double helix. It's like a secta helix or something.
Yeah. It's not a normal thing.
Yeah.
And so you have this supreme being, right? Chick, and she's just kind of badass. Like she just breaks out.
Yep. Punches through like bulletproof glass.
yeah. And just is like, oh shit. And then, they kind of grab her, and then she just happens to fall into Corbin's, lap. Yeah.
And survive.
Right.
Because that wasn't a small fall at all.
No. And they somehow, luckily, what was interesting too, the layers of traffic. I wonder at some point if we're going to get to that with flying cars, we'll have layers of traffic, and it might make some of these cities a lot more bearable. Who knows?
Well,
though.
You say that, but when we get to there's a chase scene that comes up later, right? Or I guess not later, but soon after with the cops, trying to capture Lilu, and Corbin's like, I can't, like, sorry, sweetie, or whatever he says. It's like, I only got one more mark on my license. I need this.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
But she sees that help me sign from like Children in Africa or something.
Yeah. And somehow she can read it.
Help me, or please help. That's what it was.
And I was just like, how the fuck is she reading this? Like,
well, she's a supreme being, bro. Like, she learns super fast. Like she has like a supercomputer in her brain or something. Going on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So she's picking up shit quick. Like she seems to also like understand people, whether it's language based or body language based, doesn't really get explained, but she clearly has some form of intelligence that allows her to take in basically what's going on, and I think that's why she runs away, because when she falls into Corbin's cab, like she's laughing, she's relieved that she got away. So she seems to perceive some degree of threat with like the military and how she's trapped in this tube. Who knows? But she obviously picks up by the end of the movie, like becomes super intelligent. So it's interesting, Lilu's character. But yeah, so the chase scene, right? So the chase scene with the traffic is interesting because when he's trying to get away, he eventually does like a nosedive, and there's like 4 or 6 layers of cross traffic.
It's insane.
And then what's crazy too is that it's not a short fall. He's going way down to the point when he says something like, "If we get to the fog, we'll be safe." And the fog, I interpret the fog as basically a thick layer of smog that's like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like way at the bottom. So that kind of gives you a sense of just like how vertical that city has become, which is crazy to think about.
They just built up. They just built up.
Which is logical, right? If we get more and more people on the planet, it's like, where are we going to go? We can't go wide. We must go up.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
So then after that, right, they make it, and then they try and find Cornelius in the place, and he drops her off. Funny thing to me is when he tries to, he's in the apartment and he tries to kiss her, and she immediately just puts a gun to his head.
Yeah. And it's funny too because the translation, she says some alien gibberish, and then before Corbin leaves, he goes to Cornelius like, "What does this mean?" And he's like, not without my permission," or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, consent first,
Exactly, you fucking asshole.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, it's so good. And then obviously Cornelius also, just passes out because he's been there's some history that's briefly mentioned. It's not really important to the film, but well, I guess it kind of is, but there's like this lineage of priests, like these people who pass down the knowledge of the aliens. And, obviously this was more important in the, earlier times through the implied history of the film film's time period. But yeah, Cornelius is like the modern day wise man of this ancient knowledge of this prophecy. And he, I guess in the modern day in the film, he's, what did they call him? They called him like some advanced alien specialist or something.
Oh yeah, I don't know. When they announced him in front of the president, something
exactly.
like something astro something, yeah. But it's interesting because priest, right? And priests are typically associated with Catholicism, and there's not really any reference to that. So yeah,
True.
I mean, maybe he's just some holy guy. I don't know, but he clearly has enough clearance to get in front of the president, who, by the way, the president is played by, what's his name? Tom Lister Jr., who was Zeus, the professional wrestler, and in the WWF. Yeah. And he was also Debo in the Friday movies, which is funny because Chris Tucker was in the Friday movies.
Yeah. And Chris Tucker will come a little later, but he played Ruby Rod, which is a super, super important character, which it blows me away looking at the cast list that he wasn't listed as a lead, because he has a lot of screen time. So, but we'll get to Ruby Rod in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to him.
Yeah, because what happens is, okay, the alien, the evil, is adjusting. He absorbs all these satellites. I guess he's trying to take down the communications, which is one of the first rules of warfare, right? Try to destabilize communication. Yeah. And eventually he starts blasting towards like the planet. But there's like the prophecy that, hey, this guy's going to try to destroy the world. We got to find this fifth element to do something. And no one really understands it, right? It's kind of lost in time, but the prophecy is there. And what is it? The president basically tells was he a general? Yeah, General Monroe, played by Brian James, that we need like the best guy, and we got to go get these stones. Yeah, and these stones are so important. And it's funny too, because there's multiple times like you think, oh, the stones are found, and it's a
decoy, red herring.
Yeah. Exactly. It's this box is supposed to be full.
That is, I love the way that transpired, by the way, but go on.
Yeah. So eventually Corbin conveniently is kind of roped into the story, right, against his character's will. And it's funny because the way he finds out about, hey, you're going to get, put on this big mission, is he gets a call from his mom. And this always cracks me up, because she's just laying into him. It's like, you're the worst son. Like, I should be the one going to this vacation. Like, you won this sweepstakes. You're going to, what is it? Floston Paradise or something?
Floston Paradise.
Yeah. Which is this big, like, resort. Think of it like a cruise to Hawaii or something, right? It's really the vibe I got. But
yeah, me too.
Yeah. But she's laying into him. It's like, don't you think that if I won something, I would have heard about it or something? And then he gets like the convenient knock at the door where the general shows up with the two goons. And the goons always crack me up. I mean, there's an Asian guy and there's like this older butch lady. But I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like aesthetically they have some Easter eggs. And I feel like the major, I forget her name, but she kind of always looked like a butch Princess Leia to me, because she had the little cinnamon roll hair buns.
Oh, sure.
And she was wearing this white, I think she was wearing like a white military suit. I forget.
Just the military suit, but yeah, definitely the Leia hair for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was a little throwback to Star Wars or what, but it always cracked me up. She just is there and it's like, this will be your wife. And he looks at her, he's like, I don't think so.
I am not going.
Yeah. Like, he does not want to go. But then there's that chance encounter where Lilu shows up at the door. And I guess Corbin has some kind of like love at first sight thing going with her. Right?
Yeah.
Which is probably why he kissed her earlier on. But he shoves the three military dudes into the fridge. It's like, you got to do me this solid. Like I remarried, or he's making all these excuses, and he's just like, just get in there. And he kind of just forces it to happen, right? But as soon as he opens the door for Lilu, he gets a gun pulled on him by Cornelius. And because Cornelius, I guess it was blasted all over the radio that, hey, Corbin won this sweepstakes to this really esteemed, popular, everyone wants to go if you're
Gemini croquette contest.
That's what it was. Yeah. And Yeah, so everyone knows, and everyone's trying to get it from him because the tickets are like all sold out. It's super difficult. It's booked for months, and like you said, it has to be completed within 48 hours. So like, there's this big rush from three parties, right? You got Zorg working with the aliens trying to get the stones. The aliens obviously have a falling out, which we'll get to in a bit, and then Cornelius has his agenda to get the stones and save the world, fulfill the prophecy, fulfill his destiny. And then you got, mankind with the president and the military trying to get their old retired boy back into to do this one thing.
Yeah. What I also like too is just it's just so weird, right? The cops bust into that apartment, and I guess they have this this thing where they can just say, "Oh, we're here in the building," and they can look through doors. And I always love them. Like, sir, are you human? Negative. I'm a meat popsicle.
Yeah, and they don't really expand on it at all. They don't question it. It's like, oh, he could be a meat popsicle.
yeah. I don't know what that means. Like, it's just, okay, was he just trying to, like, play with them or whatever? But
who knows?
The next guy, the
neighbor, yeah, because conveniently Lilu or Cornelius, they put Corbin's tag on the door on the neighbor's door, and he's like shaving. And one of just like a super memorable line when he goes to the door. And it's like, sir, I'm going to need you to put your hands on the yellow circles. And he's shaving, right? And he looks like an asshole, but he goes up to the see-through X-ray device up against the door, and the police see him, and he's just like, gives him the fingers, like, smoke you. And then Corbin obviously is just like under his breath in his own apartment, just like, wrong answer. And then bang. They bag him.
So they bag him, and then the Mangalores get him. And this is all stemming from, like you said, the little falling out that he had with Zorg, because Zorg was he hired the Mangalores to essentially gun down the Mondachimon and get the stones. And they show up in this warehouse, by the way. So basically the trade was he was going to give them this crazy gun, ZF-1, which was fucking cool. Like, if I was a kid, I would have wanted that, like, as like a toy or something. Like, it had all this crazy shit.
I believe they did do a run of that toy. I want to say, I feel like they did. I think, unless I'm just remembering some really cool looking Nerf gun and I'm mixing it up.
It definitely looks like a Nerf gun.
But yeah, what did the gun had? And he has like this whole speech about what it can do. Big sales pitch, right? Automatic fire. You shoot once and then you shoot anywhere, and the bullets automatically target home back to the original. Mm-hmm. It has a flamethrower, a net catcher,
ice gun. Special.
Yeah.
Darts.
What else? Darts, right? With like poison tips or some shit.
Yeah, flame. Yeah, you said flamethrower, right?
Yeah, flamethrower, his favorite.
Yeah.
Missile launcher.
Oh yeah. It was just insane. It was just
a Swiss Army knife of a gun.
Yes, correct. And then, obviously, like, it didn't go down because they didn't find the stones. So that was that falling out. So then the Mangalores.
Well, before you get more to the bad aliens here, Zorg's intro was actually super subtle, and I didn't catch this until I watched it more recently. But his introduction is them like going down this hallway. I think that was the first time we see him.
Yeah.
And the dude is like, "Hey, we're getting pressure from the government or someone to lay off people because we're worried about the economy, and they're saying we got to fire 500 million
500,000.
500,000.
He's like,
and fire. Zorg is like, yeah, exactly. He's just like, fire 1 million. But sir, which today, we get it's a big deal when, 10,000 people get fired.
Yeah.
Where in the distant future of The Fifth Element, it's like 1 million people. That's probably the equivalent of 10,000 people today, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. But Zorg as a character is just like this hard ass businessman, cutthroat. It's all about like the bottom line and sending a message or some shit.
But it's so weird because, like, I don't know what his motivation is. Like, he's clear. You find out that he's after the stones, but like, why?
And somehow it's implied, but you don't notice it unless you're paying attention. It seems like the evil, which when he later communicates to Zorg, they refer to him as Mr. Shadow or Shadow.
Yeah, Mr. Shadow.
Yeah. It's almost as if they were in communication before he like materialized out of the black hole, because he was looking for the stones before the quote unquote evil appeared. So there's something going on there. But yeah, as far as his motivations, I mean, who knows what it could be? They don't say.
Yeah,
All we know is that
he's the
he's
bad
kind of
guy.
afraid of him,
Yeah.
right? He clearly, as much as Zorg acts like this big boss CEO, when he gets the call, he looks at the phone and he's just like,
Shit and bricks.
he's exactly, yeah, shit and bricks. That's exactly what he looks like. So yeah, there's something interesting going on there, but it's obviously not super important to the plot, so they kind of gloss over it. But
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of irrelevant. So they
right,
all set on this course to try. Everyone's after, like you said, everyone's after the stones, and they after after Cornelius steals the tickets, right, and after they the Mangalores pick up the fake Corbin, like all that, they are on this course. All end up in like the airport, and they're all trying to get on. And this is where you get the one of my favorite things is the whole multi-pass thing. In fact,
yeah.
I need to show you. I have her multi-pass, right?
I'm pretty sure
Did
you've
I ever
shown
show
me.
you that?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you did. I think
I
you
don't know
did.
what
Yeah, you got.
I don't know where I put it. If I can get you a picture for the audience, I will.
Yeah,
But
but
that whole
great,
thing, yeah.
great scene. The airport in general was an interesting scene because like half of the airport is just littered as like a trash heap.
Yeah, it's weird, and they
Yeah.
mention it. One of the characters is like, "Sorry about the garbage." Like, huh? Like I don't know. Yeah, like
So
why?
it's like, is that not normal? Is it
Yeah,
normal? Like, it's not, again, not really explained, but
that's
it
what I mean.
had,
There are things that are planted that it's just like you're left wondering, right? That
yeah.
yeah,
Is this some renovation? Is it just like, hey, we ran out of a place to put trash, so we're just gonna dump it in the airport? That's kind of the vibe I got. Is like
yeah,
we have nowhere else to put it, so it's like we gotta find a big open space we can dump all this trash, and they like just put it in the airport.
yeah. So, and they try to take his place, but he obviously gets her and gets on.
Right.
The Mangalores try to get on too. It doesn't exactly work out.
Yep. Because like one dude is having trouble keeping his
His face
mask
on.
on, his
Yeah.
fake face on, and then Zorg's assistant, right? Because obviously Zorg didn't get the stone, so he's like, "You're not getting these crates of these new, prototype weapons."
Yep.
Obviously, they point guns at him, so he's like, "Okay, we'll leave him one crate." Which actually we glossed over this. Another great scene. Is Zorg, tells a little story about like this red button. And
yeah.
he never told the aliens what it does, but obviously there's this blinking red button at the bottom of the gun that they click and boom.
Yeah.
It's like some self-destruct explosion happens. But because of that falling out, right, the aliens go and try to impersonate Corbin Dallas. But also Zorg's assistant goes to and tries to be like, I'm Corbin Dallas. And it's funny too, because the lady at the desk is like, "You're Corbin Dallas? You're Corbin Dallas?" It's just like shit goes south.
And she's like, "See you later." And I love the fact too, he hits the glass and like the police thing automatically comes down and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
With guns. With guns.
Yeah, with guns. So he's like, "Oh, fuck, okay, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
I thought that was
shit
funny.
goes south. And it's interesting too, because Zorg he, basically told the guy before he left, it's like, "Don't come back without the stones." But when he calls him, it's like, "I'm not on the plane." What do you mean you're not on the plane?
And notice, this is what I'm talking about. Notice how he's calling from a payphone.
Oh, that's right.
He's calling from a payphone. Like, payphones
they don't have cell phones.
They don't have cell phones.
Which is interesting,
right?
actually.
Right? Because
I
that wasn't
didn't catch that.
In 97, it was like, that wasn't really a thing. Also, did you notice how, like, in the apartment when Lilu's looking up all the stuff and they're looking up the information, they're using a computer that's like a CRT screen.
Yeah,
Again,
like
we were just
widescreen TVs aren't a thing. LEDs aren't a thing.
Yeah, we were just talking about when we were talking about the Matrix, right? In Neo's room, he's got that giant CRT monitor. Same thing, right? It's 34 or it's 300 years. I don't know, but it's way in the future, and they're still using CRT screen. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, I guess there's like a certain degree of like old sci-fi where they imagine like holographics, but I guess the imagination for widescreen TVs that move away from CRT.
Who could have predicted like smartphones or anything? You know what I mean? So it's just funny that he's calling from a payphone, and then he blows up the payphone. And I don't know if you noticed this, but like the guy, he's like his dummy prosthesis is actually still there. You could see it. It's kind of like a
Where?
mini blooper. Well, after it gets blown up, you can kind of still see it. He's like, it's like standing there.
Oh, it's a little comedic.
I don't know if it was by accident or comedic, or again it was like a blooper or something. But like he should have been blown. He should have been blown the fuck up. And you can kind of
Smithereens.
see. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
So,
They didn't have the budget that Transformers does these days.
Yeah. but right. Think about well, so they get on the plane, and this is one of my favorite parts because you finally get introduced to Ruby Rod.
And they really kind of verbally hype up who he, whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no, I think he's a he.
I think so too.
I think he's a he.
But the visuals is very kind of feminine-esque.
It's hysterical because like he comes out, and first off, the outfit while he's on the plane is awesome. And I was at Comic-Con one year, and I saw this black dude literally had the hair and the outfit.
That's so great.
I went up to him and I said, "Your costume, like this cosplay, is fucking awesome."
Yeah,
like,
what a wild
classic.
What a wild design for character, because his hair was kind of like a pompadour, but it was like,
but it was a cylinder, like.
Yeah, it looked almost like spun hair. It was weird.
Man.
It was bizarre.
Like, so funny. And here's the other thing too. Ruby Rod is a star. He's a radio star.
Yeah, he's
right? They're still listening to radio shows in the future. Like, definitely not a thing. Not a thing anymore, right? Who listens to the radio? I personally never listen to the radio because Spotify and all this stuff, if I want to listen to something, I just go right to Spotify. I even pay Spotify because I don't want to listen to the ads. So that's like, it's just interesting to me that he's a radio star. He has this 2-hour show, and that's what he walks into, right? And he walks into the middle of this show, and he's just like, oh, you could just tell he's like, oh, fuck. He doesn't want to do it.
Super erratic, yeah. Because, Corbin is just this old retired military vet, basically. It's like, I don't really want to be here, but I'm going to do it because I want to speak with Lilu.
Right. And he's on the mission, and he's trying to keep it discreet. And he's there. He's like signing things.
There's just like red paint.
Yeah, just red paint just goes across with these little Asian chicks.
He's flirting with every single flight attendant.
That's right. He's going up to the flight attendants, and they're all like, "Oh, like they're fading."
Everyone's
and shit
swooning.
Like that.
He has a real like Michael Jackson meets Elvis Presley vibe.
Yeah. Like people just. He's supposed to be like this huge celebrity.
Superstar.
People just fucking love him. Yeah. And it's just so funny because it's Chris Tucker in this, like, this
super
weird,
erratic.
Yeah.
Super weird.
Yeah. Yep. And it's this, again, it's just hysterical because you're like, is this guy gay? Is he not? Maybe he is. And then he's like, and then he's fucking one of the flight attendants. Like,
and I love how they did a play on the takeoff like checklist, right? Because the pilots are doing like their ready check, and like landing gears up, and her legs are going up. Like they really kind of play with the words that are being said by the pilots and maybe a couple other characters, I forget. But he's just such a fuckboy, a player.
Yes, so it's awesome.
It's such a great scene. It's so hard to explain just how much of the initial scene with Ruby Rod like tickles me in the right way.
That's what I mean.
So good.
I just fucking love it. And Chris Tucker does such a great job, right? I couldn't imagine anybody else other than Chris Tucker doing it. He just nailed it.
Yeah. If you're gonna watch anything from The Fifth Element, if you haven't seen it, just go watch a video on Ruby Rod. That's all you really need to get out of this movie. That's like the best part.
And it's great because there's more of it to come, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing so then they take off. You know what I love about this? First off, I think the flight attendants are hot. I love their outfit. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah. I want all my flight attendants to look like this.
You know what's funny? This movie also reminds me of something I said in one of our past episodes. In this sci-fi future, right? Like kind of the expression of gender gets thrown out the window.
Yeah. It's like whatever.
It's super fascinating to me that a lot of film does this and a lot of sci-fi does this.
And this was back in '97, right? Yeah. So
super early.
Yeah.
So they were really pushing.
They predicted that. Yeah, they predicted that, right?
But it's also funny because again, it's not like today's films. I don't know how to describe it. it's there. It's left for like the audience to like feel about it how they do, but it's like not important at all in the film.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
That's why it's hysterical because, well,
you're just like, what a wild character, man. What a wild character.
Yeah. So he basically tells him to shut the fuck up, and then they end up over there, and Cornelius sneaks on too, right? So he's how he gets on.
He gets in through like the landing gears, and I always love how the pilots are doing their checklist, and they're like, oh, looks like we got parasites in the gears, and they bring out the flamethrowers to burn the space parasites, and they just fall out like these little bouncy dog chew toys. Like. But it's also funny too because there's like a fuel cell. It looks like a fuel cell. They're not using like traditional fuel. They're using like these nuclear reactors, and it cracks me up how there's subtle like stereotypes, but the people who handle the fuel cells are like full on Jamaican bros, dude. They're listening to some like reggae. Get the fire in here. It's getting hot. I forget exactly what he says, but it always cracks me up. Yeah, because the aesthetic of those Jamaican themed employees, it's the only time you see it in the movie, and it's so different from like this RoboCop aesthetic that we've had leading up to it. It always stood out to me. It cracks me up.
No, yeah. And that's what I mean. Like little things like this is it adds to the universe of what's going on in the Fifth Element universe, whatever you want.
Which is kind of just all over the place, dude.
Yeah, it's all over the place. They have these like and they have these things like, oh, you don't. First off, you're going light speed, right? So you're going to different constellations, and then you just sleep. They put you to sleep.
They kind of force put you to sleep, which is cracked. So you have to, because Corbin Dallas is like, no, wait.
Yeah, and then he's out.
But yeah, he's out instantly.
So and then they get there, and like you said, it's like a Hawaiian cruise. And I was gonna say, like, what gave it away? Was it the Polynesian people singing and the lays that they get right when they get off the
That's exactly why. I mean, it's total Hawaiian. Like you show up in Hawaii, and they're at the airport meeting you with the lays. But
you know what I like? He gets into this hotel.
Yeah.
Right. And this very calm hotel person is explaining and he's like, oh, I really want to. Is the diva here? I really want to see this. And she's like, oh, you have a ticket next to Ruby Rod, and she's like, oh, he's so sexy, and you just look at his face, and he's just got this what the fuck look on his face. I don't know, man. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, what's also interesting is that she kind of reminds, like, she could have been like an automated voice in the hotel room, and like she would have played that character too.
Yeah.
Like her voice is kind of like monotone as she's like going through this memorized lines of the resort.
Right.
But when she gets to Ruby Rod, it's like, oh, I love him. He's so fantastic, isn't he? Oh my God, I'm gushing.
Yeah. And he's like, what the fuck? And then his mother calls him again.
That's right. She calls him like 3-4 times in the film, which is hilarious. And each time you're like, God, what a bitch.
Yeah, like, oh, miserable.
And they actually mention it very subtly, but the mom, I guess, is on the moon. She's like on this lunar.
Oh yeah,
she describes it like some lunar hellscape, lunar ice
surface. Yeah.
So she must be like back on the moon or something, but she's pissed. She's like, I need a vacation. I need drinks. I should be there, not you. It's just like the worst mom. Like Corbin is just not having the best life. Like actually, and also speaking of his veterancy too, like he's the only survivor from his squad, which is why they put him on this mission. He's like, he's the best of the best, and he's also the only one alive that's still the best of the best.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. It's like, what the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on? It doesn't matter. All we need to know is he is like the elite special forces that's just like, I don't want to go back, man, but I'm gonna.
So the diva arrives too, and she kind of knows that like Lilu's there.
They have some kind of connection.
Yeah, which is, again, you don't really know, but she senses whatever, and the opera scene starts, which I think I also enjoy.
One of the super iconic scenes because from an opera perspective, like that was, I forget the lore or the history behind that opera performance, but I do remember it was like super technical. I forget in the film if it was partially edited to make the performance work, because it's super intricate, right? And it's so intricate to the point where like in the recent years, more modern day for us, there are singers who attempted and kind of put their own rendition of it to recreate that as a single performance rather than a potentially edited performance. Because I vaguely remember, and someone might know this in our audience, but there was mentions about, because of the way they go from like a high and a low and the range that they use, they really tried to express it in a way where it's like, this is an alien species who has like vocal cords that can do some wild shit, because the audience is just floored and giving her a standing ovation at the end. But it's super memorable, not just because it starts off like a traditional opera, but then there's like this modernization of opera that happens halfway through, which in the film they tie it together with a fight scene, which made it even better.
Yeah, and she's kicking all the Mangalore's ass, which is awesome.
Yeah,
she just destroys them. I
like
also
1v8.
Yeah, just fucking owns them. So you could see that she like can fight, and she can pretty much hold her own. The one thing I was gonna say too is just, again, you get Ruby Rod coming into this, and he's like, "Oh, celebrities." Did you notice it when he's talking about like the emperor or the empress or whatever, and he's like, "By the way, I have a recording of her talented voice," and you hear her moaning.
Yeah, he's such a player, man. It's so funny. It's like talking about this important character, and there's just like her sex tape in the background playing the audio, at least.
Yeah.
It's
fucking
super
awesome.
And speaking of kind of the sexuality throughout the film, I can't remember an earlier film that I saw tits in. This may have been the first movie that I saw that had
No, definitely not. I can tell you what my movie was.
Yeah, well, you would remember.
That's fair. It was definitely Titanic for me.
Yeah, what year was Titanic? I forget.
Titanic was 96.
96. I feel like I saw this movie before then. So yeah, who knows? Either way, yeah, you got boobs in this movie too, which is super subtly, but
very very briefly.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right,
a lot of it's implied. It's like, yay,
yeah, like awesome. I was taking what I could get when I was a kid that age. So
there you go. Yeah, but the diva is also interesting too, because it's the only alien of her kind that you see. You actually don't see a whole lot of aliens in the movie. You see the diva.
That's true.
You see the good aliens. You see the bad aliens. I guess if you count the evil shadow entity. But yeah, what other aliens show up in the movie? I can't remember.
No, that's actually, yeah, you're right. Because everyone else there was more of like humans at the ball.
And speaking of which, they didn't even get into like cybernetics or anything either, which is interesting.
No, they didn't. You're right. They didn't.
So they didn't go that direction. It was definitely kind of a, thinking about it more, it really had this kind of RoboCop vibe going for it, but without the robots.
Speaking of RoboCop, I just watched that movie again.
It's good. It's old, but it's good.
It is. We'll save that for another separate conversation.
Maybe.
So
but
then,
shit goes down, man. Shit goes down.
Right. Things take a turn because the Mangalores are like, fuck this. And they just start like, causing havoc. And
they want the stones now because fuck Zorg. We're going to take the stones and extort him for it.
Negotiate. Yeah. And the diva gets shot. Just whatever. And turns out she's got the stones inside her stomach, which don't ask me how Lilu's going to get them. Because I was like, well, how the fuck are you going to get to her? Well, okay, whatever. So Corbin reaches in. She
was going to shit bricks, man.
Literally, right? That's why I was like, what the fuck?
But probably surgically, who knows? Maybe she can split her chest open. But she tells Corbin, he's like, where are the stones? In me.
Yeah. And he's like, the fuck? Oh, and here's what's funny, too. Everything that's supposed to be happening, you got to remember, like, they're listening to Ruby's radio show. So they're hearing this all happen.
She's broadcasting.
And it's hysterical because, you're supposed to be like, oh my gosh, like when he gets accosted by the Mangalore, and then he basically flips him over and he holds him at gunpoint, like, oh, that's supposed to be on the radio, and he tells Ruby, like, guard these with your fucking life, otherwise there's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's just
make that connection.
Yeah, because the president's like, okay,
they're listening in.
Exactly right. And luckily though, he makes, and then we have the shootout scene in the lobby, which is kind of crazy between Corbin and the Mangalores.
Yeah, the shootout scene. obviously being like the badass he is, he just like takes out half of them at once. But
Right.
he's super outnumbered, and they brought like a fucking turret with 2 rockets attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's in a bad spot. And then I love how I forget the character's name because he's not really important. But
The deaf guy.
the deaf guy, he's
Yeah.
like, hey, give me the gun, and he's like, what? Give me the gun, and he passes over like two pool balls, and he's like, he gives him like this nod and thumbs up. It's like, I did good. And Corbin's just like, you fucking dumbass, dude. Just
Thanks,
look
Ray.
on his face. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ray. Yeah, Ray, that's his name. That guy's so dumb,
Yeah.
but it adds to like the comedic humor that's kind of sprinkled in the film, which is great. And then obviously throughout the fight too, Ruby Rod is freaking out.
Yeah,
She's
just
screaming.
screaming.
Coming, my man.
Shit, we coming.
Yeah. Just doing like commentary, way not in her element, just freaking out. Corbin's kind of this babysitter, but I don't know why he like brings her along, but it's funny.
Well, because Ruby has the stones, and he didn't want.
That's right. She's holding the stones while he fights.
He needed to fight the Mangalores out, but then it doesn't even. Well, I guess no. It resolves because then they throw the bomb and they kind of get away.
Yeah. But one of my favorite parts of the whole when shit goes south is the negotiation that happens at
in the bridge, basically.
In the bridge, exactly. Yeah. And the bridge is basically taken over by the aliens. There's what's the second in command called? Oh God, I have a Navy buddy too, and I'm forgetting the name.
Oh,
but basically they took everyone hostage. There's like this sailor that is super jumpy, super nervous. He's I've never negotiated before. It's you and the Corbin's just like, you mind if I try? Like how many? Well, first of all, how many are there? He's like, I don't know. It's like, you mind if I look? Let's find out. And he pokes his head in, and he immediately, like within a second, it's like 3 on the left, 5 on the right, whatever.
Yeah, he knows. It's crazy, right?
So he's like, I love how they just subtly show like, yeah, Corbin's a badass.
He's
like,
crazy. He's insane.
Yeah, he when he walked in, he knew where the exits were, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he goes in and he just instantly takes out half of them. And then they put a gun to that's right, Cornelius. He was prisoner because he broke in,
him.
right?
They found him in the ship. Yeah.
He hitchhiked basically. So he was like a, what's the word?
He was arrested.
Basically arrested, yeah. But he has a gun to his head, and it's like, oh, these aliens, they won't fight without their leader. And he's like, well, we got to find out who the leader is. But he's like, we got to negotiate. So it's like, oh, he's the leader. And he just instantly walks in. We're coming to negotiate. Bam, takes him out. Oh, headshot. So badass, dude.
Right? and you can see them. They're like, oh no, like, like just awesome until, right? Everything seems cool, and then Lilu gets fucked up because like she had this encounter with Zorg, and he had his like super weapon,
right?
And I never knew.
He came in to do it himself. You can't rely on others. I
never knew too if she got shot, like if she was fucked up because she ended up taking a few stray bullets, or just I don't know. But after that encounter with Zorg, she's kind of laying there, so he has to go find her, and he finds her, luckily. But now she's all fucked up, and Zorg just leaves a bomb. So now the hotels, all hotels, like, oh fuck, we gotta evacuate.
I love how when they first discover it, like the hotel wasn't doing anything, and Ruby's like, Corbin, what is this? And Corbin's like, oh, it's a bomb. And she's like, no, it can't be a bomb. Like all these hotels have bomb detectors. It's like, oh, what a convenient piece of technology. And as soon as it hits like the 5-minute mark, I forget, then the hotel goes into like lockdown mode. It's like, there's a bomb, everyone to the evacuation shuttles.
And they all start shooting off. And actually what's interesting is they steal Zorg's ship to get off,
because Zorg comes back after he thinks he has the stones, because I love Gary Oldman. He's such a good fucking actor. Great. But he opens the box, he closes it, and he just starts doing this nervous laugh, and you're like, oh, something's not right. And he opens it again. They're not here.
Yeah.
So he's basically flipping out because the evil Shadow is going to just tear him a new one if he doesn't get the stones for him. Oh, you could feel like the tension and he's not like a good guy, but man, the expression on his face when he realizes the stones aren't here and his
Yeah, he's like,
response,
oh,
just
fuck.
super
Yeah,
memorable to me.
yeah, he's super fucked. And it also, it's funny, he comes back in, he stops the bomb, and then the Mangalore set off a separate bomb anyways. It
Yep.
doesn't fucking matter.
Yep.
Right?
And he's like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, no. Right? Yeah.
But they finally get away. The bomb goes off. The ship is destroyed. Everyone is allegedly mostly safe. And they, I guess, blast off back to Earth.
They head back to Earth, right, to go to Egypt, to go to the temple.
Yeah. So, and at that point, like, clock is ticking, right? Because the evil is now blasting towards Earth.
Right.
They're on a short timer. And if they don't figure out how to make things work and stop it, basically Earth is gone, right? Humanity is over, is kind of the implication. So, but yeah, they get to Egypt, they get to this temple, and then probably another super iconic part of the film is trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with these stones, and the climax, the finale, or not climax, the finale, we'll call it.
Yeah. And they just happen to open it by chance until, well, because of the way David was talking to the stone, and they realize, okay, you have to match up the elements to the stone. And it's interesting that, well, I mean, it's not interesting, it's luck, right? He has one match. And I always thought about, this movie always made me think, I'm like, man, should you always have some of the elements with you, right? Should you always have some water? Should you always have matches? Like, fire is an important element, man. You can't do a lot of, fire is really important.
Yeah, as much as people don't, the association is with smoking, obviously, but like keeping a lighter in your car or in like your purse is really not a bad idea. Like, you never know when making flame that quickly could come in handy. So, yeah. And actually, speaking of which, they don't have lighters in this film, did they? Actually, no. Ruby smoked and they lit her cigarette, if I recall.
Yes.
Yeah, so they got lighters. It's just interesting that Corbin's using old school matches in the year 21 whatever.
Yeah, he's just using matches.
Yeah, but they figure out, the elements have to match. And then Lilu's having some kind of a life crisis, right? Because she learns the history of humanity, and it's like, I was made to protect, but what's the point of protecting something that basically destroys itself? Right?
Yep.
So, and Corbin has to convince her, and one of the things they stick on is love, and Lilu's like, I don't know love. And
he's like, but you do.
But no, well, he's like, I do. I love you.
Yeah.
And they kiss, and they have this moment, and I guess she finds the will to save humanity, and
like within seconds, right?
Yeah.
Of it.
I think one of the assistants in like the president's place is like it was 30 some miles away from impact.
Something crazy, which it doesn't, to me, that doesn't, and when you see it, right, it's like the dead planet, it says dead, and it's like, it looks almost like, this is the way I interpret it, it almost looks like it's like another moon now.
Basically.
But they think they say like 63 miles from impact. And I'm like, well, how's it just, again, I'm too scientific. I was like, oh, well, why is it
the mass alone would fuck up our oceans.
Right. Why is it not just crashing into the ocean? I was like, all right, well, whatever. It's a movie.
Well, actually, speaking of which also, so when it gets closer, it actually, there's a moment where it basically blocks out the sun.
Yeah.
Right? They see the shadow creeping as it gets closer. But the scene where they showed at, there's a sun in the horizon, which I always thought, it's like, you fucked up.
Really?
Fucked up. There's a sun in the horizon. So what is it blocking exactly?
Oh, shit. I did never realize that. Good for you. See, things like that. Yeah.
So the movie is not super consistent, right? It's really the story and just the wild nature of it, and how are they going to stop this good versus evil kind of thing going on. But it's a fun movie. I'll say that.
It's a fun movie. It's sci-fi. It's a fun movie,
which we don't get enough of these days. God damn it!
That's what I mean. Like this is more of like a comedy, I would say, and it's like I said, very simple story. Evil gotta rescue from evil, and just everything in between. There's so many things that just make you laugh. Mainly, Chris Tucker's the Ruby Rod characters is
unforgettable.
For me, it's so so good.
There's just nothing like Ruby Rod. But yeah, it's a great movie. If you haven't seen The Fifth Element, check it out. It I think still holds up today. Like, the quality is still pretty damn good. It's not like playing an old video game where it's like, I can't do this. Like, the film quality is good. I mean, again, it's not like early 90s, it's late 90s, right? So
Yeah.
movie production by then is decent.
Yeah.
So I'd say, yeah, if you like a little sci-fi, if you want to just have a fun little evening, it's even better when you're high.
Oh yeah, yeah. Definitely smoke something or drink something and check it out.
But don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, but don't. Yeah.
But
don't do hard drugs. Yeah.
But it's such a fun movie. There's a good balance of humor. Corbin's like a lot of the characters kind of fill their own little niche, which is fantastic, right? You got like the nervous assistants, you got like the priest, which is the embodiment of like he's doing what he's destined to do, right? Like he's super driven because like it's his purpose for what was passed down to him. Corbin's just like the old military vet. Lilu's just such an interesting super being that adapts, that changes kind of from the beginning to the end of the film, which is great. And I'd say each character is like unique enough, or at least the main character. Like it cracks me up. I'll bring it up again. When we look at the credits, like the leading characters, it's really only highlighting Bruce Willis, Gary Oldman, and Mila Jovovich. But like Cornelius's character, Ian Holm, fantastic. Ruby Rod obviously is Chris Tucker, fantastic, and like those are listed as like supporting cast, which
Chris Tucker definitely was, I think, a main. I think he was.
Yeah.
But maybe it had to do something with the amount of time he was on the screen, because I don't think you get introduced. You don't really see Ruby until they're on the plane, and that doesn't happen until like, honestly, I'm looking at this.
Was it like 40 minutes in?
Dude, it's actually
actually way later. It's like an hour
in. Yeah. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why.
But it again kind of goes back to what we said earlier, where it's a 2-hour film, but man,
2-hour
those
film.
2 hours just fly by when you're watching
really
it.
Quick.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think, because I love this movie. It's one of another one of those movies where if someone says they haven't seen it, I'm like, we're fucking watching it.
You gotta watch it.
Yeah. If someone brings up wanting to see it, it's fucking great for that. I don't know. There's just something that it just tickles me the right way in the weirdest way.
Yeah. And I love too, you and I have a mutual friend named his kid Corbin. Fucking brilliant. Fucking brilliant. Brilliant.
And there's just like these little lines. It's, I don't know. I grew up with it, man. It's super memorable to me. I love this movie. It's great.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys love, what you guys hate, or if we missed anything, other little Easter eggs. Please let us know, because who's to say we can't always come back and do a revisit on some of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, maybe we'll do an episode where we just like talk about things that we missed in past episodes or something. Like there's so many things we can do. But, yeah. What did you guys think about Fifth Element? I'm super curious to know what people thought, because I think it's like generally accepted as like a 7 out of 10 movie, but for me it's at least an 8. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I think just because it's funny, and for me, if movies go by quick because I'm not interested in it, then it's a good movie, right?
Yeah. If you like Rush Hour, you'd like this movie.
Yeah,
I almost guarantee that the audience that enjoys Rush Hour would like this movie.
Yeah, I agree. Well, what should we do next, Duke? We'll have to talk offline about what we want to do next. Or again, if you guys have suggestions, please let us know, and we'll take a look.
We will take a look. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll see you next time. I'm Duke Meadowpoint.
Mike Freedom. Have a good one, guys.
Take it easy, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.